It's 1998, and the newly arrived Dutch citizen Tob Cohen arrives in Kenya as the newly appointed CEO for Philips East Africa. He falls in love with Sarah Wairimo, his secretary, who he ended up making his wife. He had a new life, a new job, and endless possibilities until early September 2019, when his body was found decaying in his septic tank at his familial home. This is Sisters in Crime, an African true crime podcast hosted by my sister Nzilani and I. Join us today as we dive into the harrowing case of Tob Cohen.
Okay guys, let's go back in time. I'm gonna set you back to the 80s in Kenya, when apparently there was no crime. Things were amazing according to our parents. Affordable. Matatus were 3 shillings when they were actually called mathris for a reason.
And being a teacher was the most prestigious job.
Teacher or banker. You were a teacher or banker.
Or a doctor.
And
or a lawyer.
yeah. And our parents always tell us about this time like it was like this utopia in Kenya. There was no crime on the streets, there's no cars. And Tob Cohen moved to Kenya at this time. So he moved to Kenya to become the CEO of Philips East Africa. Philips makes these electronics, like, do we call them electronics, like fridges? Appliances, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you. So they make fridges, microwaves. You've seen Philips everywhere. I think they make TVs as well.
Yeah.
And he moved to become the CEO. So that's like a big deal. He was a big deal. So he ends up falling in love with his secretary. We know this story. You know how it goes. And we know it's a bit...
Too many shows have profited
Shows.
off of this storyline.
Shows. We know so many people who've married their secretaries. But he moved to Kenya, he married his secretary, they fell in love, and they had a beautiful life. So as he was CEO of Philips, he also started a company that organized golf tournaments. So, you know, rich people things.
Rich people things. Get rich, you start playing golf.
Of course.
Or you start an organization
that my plan.
Takes people to play golf. Then you're more rich than them.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my goal, actually. I want to start playing golf, make a company that organizes golf tournaments, and then just be like the richest of the rich. So they start this company called Tob Kenya Golf Safaris, and they actually do golf tours around Kenya. We actually just met someone who's doing a golf tour, and they go from different, it's like a thing rich people do where they go from this club to this country club and the next country club, and that's how they like meet other rich people. So this is what they were doing. So they were living the life. Other than that, they were also parenting Sarah's daughter. So they were actually living a really good life at this time. Everything was perfect, or
Rosy,
at least it
seemed glasses.
Yeah, it seemed perfect until, as Sophie mentioned, in 2019 when he was discovered in his septic tank. And we're gonna get into the timeline of these events next. So guys, I'm going to take you through the timeline, and I need you guys to stay with me because this is going to be very important as we review this case. So early 2019, Tob filed for a divorce, and apparently this divorce was over a property that costed millions. And at the time of his death, Tob was actually estimated net worth was 700 million shillings. So they were very wealthy, and this property, whatever it was, it's not been made clear, was probably worth not small millions, big millions. So a week before...
There's small millions.
There's no small millions.
Give me 1 million.
Just one, yeah. A week before 20th July, Tob filed for a divorce from Sarah. And then days before his disappearance, he writes various letters to his friends and other people about everything that was going on in his life. Basically, he said that the divorce was putting a lot of pressure on him, and that if anything happened to him, it would be because of a close relative. He was being very spooky at this time. So let's get to July 20th. Sarah files a report with the Netherlands embassy stating that Tob was ill. At the same time, letters go out, allegedly from Tob, stating that he wants to absolve his divorce and he wants to take back the assault charges that he filed against Sarah. And that's the last thing anyone ever hears from Tob Cohen. until 2019, September 19th, when his body is discovered in a tank at his home. Let's get into what happened.
So, who was Sarah Wairimo? We have information from around the time that she met Tob Cohen, which was in her late 20s. She was working as a secretary at Philips East Africa. She was a young mom, ambitious, did her best to provide for her baby, and put herself in the spaces that she needed to put herself in. You know, as
Clearly,
a mother, young, independent woman. You know, I was just doing the math of when they married and when she was born, and she was 29. I just turned 28. So
That's
I'm like, wow,
insane.
you have this young baby, then you have this new man who is doing the most in life, as in, it's crazy. Like, it's a lot at the same time, but at the end of the day, with the kind of mentality that she seems to have, based on the information that I know about her, she was nothing less than a go-getter. Like,
And
doing
honestly,
everything that she did. I know, you know, starting the business with him, doing the golf company, making sure that the business succeeded. They owned multiple properties together. I'm sure there are other businesses that have not been mentioned in public that they owned together. She was a quintessential bad bitch.
And honestly, I cannot fault her at all, because if I was 29 and there's this CEO who has all this money, I have a baby to take care of, best believe I'm doing exactly what she did.
What I need to do for this baby.
What she used to do for this baby and for my life, she leveled up.
They usually say that when you have a baby, your life is no longer yours.
She was thinking.
Do what
she
you
was
need to
thinking.
do to get things done.
Yeah, so what happened? Like, then everything seems so perfect for her.
Like, I wouldn't lie, I think she probably did love him when their relationship started, because and if you think about relationships now, there's different power dynamics. Thinking about, like, my personal life, things that have happened in my past, you find yourself in a relationship with someone who is maybe of a different earning capacity. So there's that ambition they feed into you. You're just like, wow, it could even be aspirational, you know? It doesn't always have to be like with a gold digger mentality, because that's not how I think it always works. But you see better and you want to do better, so you're pushed to, your drive just increases, you know?
Yeah, so how didn't everything seem perfect? Because, I mean, she secured the bag. She has the baby daddy. She has a husband. Good life. She's now co-running a company. Like, what happened?
I think that it gets tiring, because obviously with those kinds of power dynamics, you find yourself in a situation where you might become a bit mutable because of maybe earning capacity, or the other person might feel like they're now pushing more. They're more of a pusher because of their status.
So you don't think she was happy in the marriage?
I think maybe the lack of balance, because if you look at all the gossip, even from her sister-in-law's side of the story, she was already taken as a gold digger from the get-go. Her sister-in-law used to call her a nigger.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and attempted to hook him up with multiple Caucasian women until he told them to stop. This is all according to Sarah. So if this is her perception of her marriage, that her husband has to constantly shut up his family about what her intentions are, maybe he also began to believe it, you know? And slowly but surely began to act different, people in his ear. And then you also have to think about outside influences. Because it's a rich man. A rich man will attract rich other women, his family members, and other men. People, like society, like you're just drawn towards those kinds of people, and whatever obstacle is in your place, and in this case, a wife is an obstacle to a man's wealth.
So
for
do you
other
think
parties.
all these pressures
I
led
think
her
it-
then
Yeah, I think to possibly having an affair with one Peter Karanja, but it's all alleged. Nobody knows, because according to her, during their marriage, it was not all a bed of roses. However, they were cordial and did meet and spend time with each other up till the time of his death.
Okay, let's get into Peter Karanja. He seems very interesting. Let's get into this Peter Karanja character and the scandalous affair that him and Sarah had. So apparently Sarah had a type. Just like Tob, Peter Karanja was a prominent, wealthy businessman in Nairobi, and he was previously married to the MP of Gilgil. You went to school in Gilgil.
Gilo.
Shout out Gilo. Martha Wangari. So that was his ex-wife. And then he was arrested and charged with robbery with the violence on his ex-wife's estate. So clearly shifty character, not seeming like a great guy. And but he was wealthy, he was prominent. And I do feel like if she was unhappy in her marriage, she was not gonna go from this secure, affluent lifestyle and then just jump into the ghetto. No, she was smart, clearly. So she went from Tob to another wealthy businessman. So when did this affair start? Did Peter want anything else that Tob had? Like, what was the dynamic and why would he help her in this? It could either just be love, passion, or it could be about something deeper, maybe the money. But that we will get into in the court case. So at this point where we are now, authorities know that things weren't all peachy and perfect at home. Obviously, Tob has filed assault, he's filed for divorce, and then things are going backwards. Like he's basically, according to his letter, saying that actually no, the assault didn't happen and he doesn't want a divorce. So things are looking shifty. So at this point, police start to believe that Sarah teamed up with Peter Karanja to get Tob out of the picture so they could run away off into the sunset and live happily ever after. And this seemed for them like it was gonna work. Easy peasy stuff. She was going to get rid of Tob, get everything, and live a happy life with her new man. But that was not the case. They were not going down without a fight. So Sarah was arrested on suspicion of Tob's murder. And so not Tom, Tob. Tob is such a strange name, not Tom. Tob, like Cobb. So yeah, Sarah was arrested with Peter Karanja on suspicion of Tob's murder. And so she went where? To our favorite prison, Langata Women's Prison, where she can be, look at the multiverse of true crime joining. Last case in Nyancha, the babes went to Langata Women's Prison. I wonder if she was in the beauty pageants that they have,
I don't think she was there long enough.
Okay, who do you think would win between Sarah and our Onyancha gal? Not Onyancha gal. Not Onyancha gal.
Not Onyancha. It wasn't Onyancha.
Who was it? Who's the beauty queen? Ruth, our studio audience has informed us that episode hasn't come out yet. So you can catch that episode next where Langata Women's Prisons is going to feature a lot. So anyway, DCI George Kinoti was very much for her arrest and sentencing. Like he was gunning for her. He was not letting this go. And I remember we were watching this case countrywide and it was a bit insane because once they showed the footage of the police finding Tob's body, and they had actually previously searched the compound, and once they found the body, everyone was so sure that it was Sarah. Do you remember, like, we were watching, I think we were at home, and Dad was like, for sure, we know who did it.
I think that's because during the interviews, his sister, Gabrielle, and the MP, Patrick, what's his name? Patrick. Yeah, and the MP friend that was friends with Cohen, his best friend allegedly, apparently, really spoke out and like threw mud in the water, like unfairly. Like she literally went up and straight up said, "This is Sarah who did this," and that's when he also said that. Now his friend said that on the night that he died. He gave him a call and told him and emphasized the contents of those letters that were apparently sent to the DPP. Saying,
from Tob.
Yeah, from Tob. So he basically co-signed, okay, which is a bit suspicious because, I mean, you say the same thing, an unnamed family member, some family member was going to kill him, and the sister is like, it's Sarah. It's her, and she clearly had an agenda already. So I know why she was the first suspect.
Yeah, and at that time, it seemed there was very clearly two camps. So in the for everyone around the country, but also during the court case. So there was DCI George Kinoti, who wanted her arrested and wanted her sentenced and was so sure it was her, but he was going head to head with DPP Nordine Haji, who did not want her to get prosecuted. And in December of 2022, just last year, DPP proposed an inquest that had Sarah and Peter walking uncharged. So the two camps were both in the court case with the DCI and the DPP. But also, I remember when the court case first came out, I felt really bad because we didn't know everything yet. And I guess we'll still never know. But I thought that it was really unfair that everyone was like, it's the wife because she just wanted money and she was a gold digger. But at the same time, there was so many other players in the case. So Sarah, after she was released, wanted Tob's property, claiming that it was hers. She wanted his Porsche Cayenne and the 2 dogs that they owned together. And I think rightfully so, because if you've been with a man for this long, and I'm not trying to say that she didn't do it or she did it, but if you've been with a man for that long and you have acquired assets together, because remember, she was helping him run the organization, I think it was valid if they hadn't charged her for her to want, her dogs. I think it was valid for her to want her dogs and maybe her car. The Porsche Cayenne.
As she worked for.
Yeah. So there's some other things that made this court case a bit unclear. So Tob's sister, as we claimed, there's multiple people who were involved in this case. And she claimed that Sarah had threatened Tob, and if he didn't comply with whatever she wanted, she was gonna get him deported, because remember, he is a Dutch citizen. So she had that to hold over his head. Who knew that Kenyan citizenship was something that you can hold over people's head? The way we talk about our passport, like it's not anything.
But it doesn't make sense at all.
Strong.
Yeah.
And the sister actually did not end up attending his funeral because she claimed multiple things. First, she said she was working on getting justice for her brother. She was not focused on the antics and fighting with Sarah. And all of these aspects that she brought into play, for example, their Jewish customs that she talked about and different reasons, which is why I had a side eye for this babe. I was like, it doesn't matter what's happened. If your brother is being buried, you show up for the funeral.
She had a lot of reasons.
Yeah?
She did, quite a few reasons.
Yeah.
Actually. Number one, she said that the flights were really expensive, and she'd spent a lot in court and paying lawyers up to, I think, what would be 21 million shillings, which is not realistic, if we're being honest, on the case. So she didn't have the facilities to be able to travel for his funeral. She was planning. Yeah.
But I think low-key these were excuses, and why I think that is because if the money was a concern, later on we'll find out that Sarah's lawyer, who is Philip Murgor, and I think we actually went to school with his daughter. Yeah, I remember mom and dad talking about that. He is an amazing, one of the best lawyers in Kenya, and he came at Gabrielle, his sister, Tob Cohen's sister, and said that her only concern was his estate. She was gunning for the money. And this is now where a lot of the speculation came in of what was actually happening. So at the end of this whole debacle, the court case is still cold and Sarah is chilling.
I think a point worth mentioning is the will.
Yeah. And we will get into that.
So let's get into the fun stuff, the theories. So the first one is set literally at the beginning. So according to Philip Murgor, Sarah's lawyer, the fact that the DCI knew where to find Tob's body, they searched the place in 2 days. Yeah. So the first day, they searched everywhere except where the body was going to be found, in the backyard, at the corner, and then the other corner of the backyard, the adjacent, across from each other. So those are the only 2 places that were not searched. And they were not searched that day because they decided, okay, let's wrap it up. Let's go home. We'll do it again tomorrow. Yeah, which was suspicious because it was not a large area to cover, number one. Number two, the fresh cement was evidence that something had happened recently. Now remember, up until this point, where was Sarah?
Where was she?
She was in prison.
So they had free range to search everywhere.
Exactly.
And they didn't check new construction work. Okay.
Exactly. And was she in prison? Sorry. Was she in prison? She was in prison.
I think she was in prison. Because she was arrested and released.
She was arrested and released.
Yes.
And even during the search, when the police carried out the search, I'm sure, in fact, she was in prison because they had refused her to, like, she was not allowed to even access the premises. Like, she was locked up, basically. She had no access to anything.
Yeah.
And the fact that it wasn't located until the next day. And even on the next day, these guys were so sure they'd found a body. If you see the videos of them pulling the body out of the tank, these guys knew. And you can hear even by the verbiage and everything that everybody's talking about, like they knew it was a body. And no one else did, because even the news anchors now were going off of, if you see the interviews, off of what they were seeing. Like, okay, so these guys have said it's probably his body, so it looks like a body, but it was just wrapped up in a white bag quite tightly, a top. So that's the first theory, which, to be honest, I think holds a lot of water. I don't know about you, because why did you take 2 days to search and leave out very small areas of the compound and call it a day? You know, why not finish the job when there was clearly enough time to do so?
Yeah.
And what are you trying to hide, you know? And then fresh cement. Cement doesn't take too long to dry. I mean, cement...
It's a dead giveaway. It's a dead giveaway.
Cement is a paint on your face. Like, we see it. You know, it will dry... In fact, we should Google how long cement takes to dry, just for fun, just so that we know. But it doesn't take that long to dry. And the fact that they were so sure of what they had found, and they had barred people from accessing certain areas of the property as they were searching, is a big red flag. And the fact that the DCI was so hell-bent on putting her in prison, I think, I mean, that theory for me.
Do you think they were paid by somebody who maybe had spent all their money bribing the police so they couldn't not
attend the funeral?
Exactly. You see what I'm saying?
Wow, I think so. I think so. That's a possibility. Remember, we talked about, like, wealth attracts leeches in every capacity. And a wife or a husband is an obstacle towards that access.
But do you think then the sister... I just can't think of it because
I don't know if
we're
the sister
sisters,
is married, because I
obviously.
think she's a single mom.
But we're sisters. We have a brother, 2 brothers, and I just can't wrap my head around the thought of killing your brother for money. Obviously, I don't know what their relationship is like, but killing anyone, first of all, for money, crazy. But your brother, crazy, proper crazy. Like, is it like? Do you think that she would come all the way to Kenya, first of all, try and kill him after? But actually,
and then another
you
fact,
just
they were
reminded me something.
estranged.
You just
They hadn't even been speaking for like a couple
the
of months
siblings?
before. Yeah. Gabrielle hadn't really spoken to her brother. According to Sarah, like, they had no contact. According to Gabrielle, she'd had no contact with him. Like, they both say that, oh, you've not even been talking to him. Like,
but you also said she wasn't like the best person.
Gabrielle, even her interviews, she's not. She's a Karen.
Yeah, calling Sarah the N-word, like just doing the most, trying to get him to be with a white woman, and then now he's not done that.
You want to know what she said the day the body was found? Was it the day? It was when they were at the house. I remember they were at the house. I was watching this interview, and she was like, when they were interviewing the best friend, the MP, and then she had already spoken her piece. But then she's like, I have something left to say. Now the camera guy was moving away. She's like, I have something left to say. And she looks dead ass into the camera and says, my brother was a man who came to this country to build this country. He did so much. He did the golf. He did, like, I'm just like, girl, where's the tears? Where's the weeping? You're talking about his assets. You're saying he was an asset to this country. He brought in a lot of money. It is Sarah. That was her final word that day.
It is Sarah.
Yeah, she was like, it's
the quote
definitely
from the
her.
Bible, it is done.
You know, so even the speculation around how automatically we've assumed the DCI has barred the access to that corner. Then you have the sister talking crazy, you know, already making assumptions. And it's so rude, you know, to do that. Like, everybody's mourning. And Sarah even said, like, the people she expected to be supporting her family, they were not there. They had immediately guns blazing. Yeah. So that theory, I think, holds a lot of water. And when I watched those interviews and those scenes over and over again, it just became more apparent that I don't think she did it. And that's why I think DPP Nuruddin Haji is a hero.
So you don't think it was a sister?
I think it was the sister.
Oh, you don't think it's Sarah?
700 million. If you think about, and we'll get to this later, 700 million, of an estate. You don't even need to put up a deposit. You just need to know who to talk to get the work done. We'll split when we're ahead. If you think about it.
Yeah.
When the will was being read, which is the second theory. Yeah. So the will was being read at, I forget his lawyer's name, in his office. And that clip is so crazy. I think we'll have to add a picture of the will, because I was like, is this how wills look? Will, maybe you can tell us.
How did they?
But the will was it was a brown envelope, and then it looked like it had tape. So tape, like, you know how you wrap a box for Christmas, like you have the bow and then the other bow, and then the bow on top. I mean the
the
so
ribbon
it's like
and
two like they're crossing each other. So that's why it was sellotape on the envelope, and then it looked like something had been smeared across where they interconnect, which is supposed to be the seal. Now, usually if you think of even all the movies we've watched and how people these days do their wedding cards, think about a seal with the candle wax. It usually looks like it's done with intent and purpose. Like it's like a circle, and then you have a stamp that now seals it and has like an emblem. It looked like it was brushed off. Like it looked so horrible. That wasn't even the worst part. So as they were waiting, so apparently they waited for Philip Murgor, who had been given instructions by Sarah not to attend the reading of the will. Remember, she was in prison, so he was supposed to go on her behalf.
But she didn't want that.
She didn't want him to go. And everybody else connected to the case on her side was barred from going. Obviously, now you have to respect your client's wishes. So they waited for him for about an hour and a half. They said they were there from 11:30 to 1. And then after that, now the journalists now started asking him questions. Yeah, this is now the fishy part. Would you be able to share with us the contents of the will once it's been read, at least even in broad strokes? He said no. The family is the one to decide, which makes sense. But considering the amount of publicity this case was already getting, I thought that it would have been in their best interests to be more open about that process. They claimed that it was because the will process hadn't begun yet, like legally, because now there's the criminal case, now you've concluded, and then now you continue.
It's a lawyer.
Hey. Yeah. So it was evidence. Not evidence, it was evidence in the criminal case, but then it was going to be used for probate. So that process hadn't started. They could not disclose what was there. They went into the room, They came back out and they were being asked all these questions about, do they have interests? So his sister was very, I don't know how to describe it, like very... Can I just pause there because the thought has slipped my mind?
Pause. Let it come back. But while you return to that thought, I want to know exactly who you think it was. I think we've touched on it a bit, but after everything, I think I've changed my theory, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Who was it?
I'm standing by, and this is controversial, my girl Sarah.
She did it.
I don't think she did it.
Yeah, she didn't do it.
I don't think she did it anymore. And I do think because for multiple reasons, but especially because at the funeral, she mentioned that Tob's friends and family are all wolves in sheep's clothing. And upon seeing everything, I'm going to stand by Sarah. We support women's rights, but most importantly, we support women's wrongs. Yeah.
Well,
what do you think?
I think it's the sister who did it. Wallahi. Because she was cold through the entire process. And I know that maybe warmth is more natural for Africans. I don't know. Like we mourn, we like our seasons in life are very passionate. You know, we're very communal people. But she was stone cold the entire time. The entire time. And the fact that everything that came out of her mouth was just muddying the water for Sarah. I'm like, girl, where's your grief?
She's pointing. She
came out pointing.
She's doing too much.
She's doing too much.
Yeah,
And
I see what you're saying.
yeah, her posture, her demeanor. Her brother was also there. It was her and her brother.
So
But
you think it could have been multiple people, actually?
yeah, I think, in fact, I think they colluded with the lawyer, Tob's lawyer, and the DCI. Yeah.
But don't come for us, DCI. But we want to know especially what you guys think. So please let us know your theories. This case is still cold. And we just want to know if you have any other information about this case. Let us know. If you have any thoughts about someone else who you think did it, please let us know. And I want to say a big thank you to you guys to listening to Sisters in Crime. And an even bigger thank you for listening to our first episode. We really appreciated that. And we love all the feedback we got from the first episode. And we hope you guys can keep giving us feedback. We want to keep making these episodes for you. And in the meantime, we want to tell you guys to catch our last episode. It's already up on every platform that you can catch a podcast. And you can listen on
everywhere podcasts are found.
Yeah, exactly.
I've remembered the suspicious thing. I have to say it.
Okay.
Yeah. So the journalist asked when Tob came in to write that will. He said it was not this year, it was not last year, but I can't disclose that information. I was like, why?
You're throwing more flames.
Why? Why? Like, why can't you say,
flames.
like, he came in on this day and he signed it? The will wasn't even dated on the envelope. He said it's inside. The date is inside. And you see the seal has not been broken. But then again, that was a suspicious looking seal. I feel like that envelope is also the envelope, the compound, the sister. Yeah. Fishy.
All of it is fishy.
Yeah.
So tell us what you guys think in the comments, and write to us on all our social media handles. You can find us on TikTok. You can find us on Instagram, and we have other content there as well for you true crime fans. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you in
the next one. Bye, siblings. We've never even mentioned siblings, man.
Bye, siblings.